Welcome to Chapter 8, talk about financial management, and we are going to start with Section 8.1, reviewing percents, sales tax, discounts, and also percents increase and decrease. Express the given fraction as a percent. So whenever we have a fraction or even a decimal number for that matter, you can change it to a percent by multiplying by 100%. And I like to leave the percent symbol on there so that I know my answer is in percent form when I'm done. And at this point, you can either place this in your calculator, you can work it by hand. If you want to show all your work, I could say 1 times 100 is 100, 5 times 1 is 5, still leaving that percent symbol. And reducing my fraction will give me 20%. So the answer here is 20%. Make sure before you put your answer in, round to the nearest hundredths. You can see that we don't have a hundredths position to worry about, so we'll leave it as 20%. Express the given decimal as a percent. So the way we learned it in the developmental section is to take our number, find the original decimal, and move it 2 places to the right towards where you would place that percent symbol. So this is going to give you 5,486%. That is one way that you can work this problem. The other way, as I mentioned on the previous slide, is just to multiply by 100%. And when you do this, you will get the same answer. 2 different ways to work the same problem. Once again, you want to select the method that is easier for you to maintain. Change the percent to a decimal equivalent. So they gave us 7 7/7. So one of the things we can do with the 7 7/10 is to take the 7/10 and rewrite that portion as a decimal. So 7 7/10%, this is the equivalent form. And if you recall, if you have a percent and you want to change it to a decimal, you drop your percent symbol and you run 2 places to the left. Now this case here, this is where I'll place my new decimal, and I also need to fill that in with a 0 in front of that 7. So now my decimal equivalent is 77 thousandths. Going from percent to decimal, drop the percent symbol, move your original decimal 2 places to the left. Use the percent formula. A is equal to PB, where it says A is, P is percent of B. All right, so this is called your percent equation. And that is A is equal to P, which is the percent, times B, which is the base. All right, so once again, this is my base, B. P is the percent, and A is the amount. And you can think of the P and B together as peanut butter. So PB is P times B to answer the question. Now this question here says 3 is what percent of 40? Things we need to know about this. The word is means equal. The word of means to multiply. Equal and multiply. So if I take this sentence exactly the way it is, I can translate it into an equation, which will end up being this percent equation. So 3 is means equal. What percent is my unknown? So I'm going to call that X because I don't know what that is. The word of implies multiplication, so you can put a times symbol, a solid dot, an asterisk, and then following that is 40. So that is X times 40 or 40X, however you'd like to see that. The next thing we want to do is to go in and solve for X. X is my percent. So what I need to do is do the opposite of multiply, and I will divide. What I do to one side, I must divide to the opposite side. And you can see here that on the right side, 40 divided by 40 is just 1. That will leave you X by itself. And you have 3 over 40. Remember, X is a percent. So if you go in and place this in your calculator, you are going to get 0 and 75 thousandths. We need to change it into a percent form. So this becomes 7 and 5/10%. So the answer here is 7.5%. And once again, I'm going to label this X here is my what percent. So you know what I solved for. Once again, we're going to use the percent formula, A is equal to PB, in order to answer the following question. So some students like to know how does A equal PB play into this equation. So if I wrote this out, three is 50% of what? That's the question that we have to answer. What we do is we look for the is, which means equal, and the of, which means multiply. Once you locate those symbols, you know exactly what each of those numbers stand for. So the 3, remember, is the A all by itself. So this is my A. The 50% obviously is your percent, your P. And what we're looking for is the base, or what number. So in this case, if I wanted to translate this directly into an equation, I would have 3 is, and what we want to do is place that 50% into a decimal form. And you can leave it as 5/10 or 50/100. It's up to you on how you want to write that. And just to give it some consistency, I'll leave it at the 50/100. And my what, that's my B. That's what I don't know, what my base is. All right, so we're going to solve for that letter. Remember, that is 50% of what number? So that's a multiplication. We're going to undo this by dividing by the number on both sides. Dividing out the 50/100 leaves you B by itself and the base number. So once you go in and you do your long division, you're going to find that this ends up being 6. So the base amount here is 6. There's also another way you can work this. We know that the percent equation is A is equal to the percent times the base. We also have what's called a percent proportion. And this can be written as the amount divided by the base is equal to the percent over 100. Remember that per 100 is definitely changing that into a percent. So what we can do is identify what was given. We know that A is going to be 3. We're looking for our base. We also know that we have 50%, so I am just going to place 50 over 100. That's representing 50%. And if you want to, you can reduce that right-hand side. That's going to give you 3 over B equal to 50 divided by 100, if you reduce it, is just 1/2. And from here, we can do what's called a cross product. 1 times b and 3 times 2. Now, once we do that, b times 1 is b, and 3 times 2 will give you 6. So we're still going to get the same result here where the base is equal to 6 using the percent proportion. Two different ways to work the same problem. Percent equation is a direct translation of the question into an equation, or you can do the percent proportion and solve it that way. So once again, it says use the percent formula, A is equal to PB. In this case here, what I want to do is go ahead and focus on percent proportion just to see if you like that one a little better than the other one. Remember, work it both ways to see if you have the right answer, and it's good practice. So looking at the original statement here, it says 18% of what number is 21 and 6/10. All right, so obviously the 18 is my P, my percent. Of means multiply. Once again, I'm looking for my base. Is equal, and the 21 and 6/10 is my amount. So I have A my B is the what number? This is what I'm looking for. And my P is 18. So if I use the percent proportion, remember it is A over B is equal to P over 100. Some students like to think of this as is over of, so they have the numbers in the right order. However you would like to remember that. So I will go ahead and substitute those values in. I have A over B is equal to 18 over 100. Now you don't need to change this into a decimal. The divide by 100 takes care of that decimal change. We will do our cross product, take the numerator and multiply it by this denominator, and the same thing to the opposite side. So I have 18 times B, which makes this 18B. And I have 21 and 6/10 times 100, which gives me 2,160. Then we need to go in and divide by 18. Remember, this is an implied multiplication right there. And divide by 18. Once you divide by 18, we have isolated and solved for B. Now we just need to go 2,160 divided by 18, and you will see we end up with 120. So the number that we needed to find, the base number, is 120. And once again, you can also use the percent formula and solve this the original way that we learned. Use the percent formula A is equal to PB to answer the question below. What percent of 2.5 is 0.5? We're actually going to work this one two ways. We know that the percent formula is going to be A is equal to peanut butter, P times B. The percent proportion is A divided by B is equal to P divided by 100. So percent equation versus the percent proportion. In this case, first, let's identify what we have. We have what percent is what we're looking for. That'll be my P. Of means to multiply. The 2.5 is my base. Is means equal. And then the 0.5 is my A, my amount. So we have our equation. I'm going to do a direct translation of that. That turns into the percent equation. Percent times 2 5/10 is equal to 5/10. All I did was rewrite the equation into symbol form. Now we're going to go in and solve for P. So since this is a multiplication, I will divide the left side by 2 5/10. What I do to one side of my equation to keep it equal, do the same operation on the opposite side. So the 2 5/10 will divide out, leaving you 1, and 1 times P is just P. And on the right-hand side, if you do your division, you should get 2/10 for your answer. Now remember, this is a percent. It's saying what percent. So we still need to take this and translate it into a percent. So we need to take this decimal, move it 2 places to the right, add a 0 and a percent symbol. So P is equal to 20%. So 20% of 2.5 is equal to 0.5. So you can always check your answer by taking the 20% and substituting it into the original equation, and you will find the left side equals the right side. Now, since we know what P and B and A represent in the equation, we're going to set it up as a proportion next. So A is your 5/10. The B is your 2 5/10. We're looking for the percent over 100. And what we'll do now is called a cross product. We take P, the numerator, and multiply it by the denominator of the other fraction. And we take the numerator of the first fraction and multiply it by the denominator of the second fraction. All right, so 2.5 times P is just going to give you 2.5 P. And 5/10 times 100 is going to give you 50. Then again, we have to get P by itself. We will divide both sides by 2 5/10. This divides out or cancels the 2 5/10 on the left side. Leaves you just P. And if you work this out, you're going to get the answer 20. So in this case, with the proportion, they already gave you the number. You don't have to do any translation into decimal. All you need to do is add your percent symbol, and you will be done. So we have the same answer. It will be up to you to decide. Do you want to use the percent equation or the percent proportion? The circle graph shows a breakdown of spending for the average household using 365 days worked as a basis of the comparison. So they kind of emphasize the fact that 365 days will be your base, your B. What percentage of work time does the average household spend paying for federal taxes? So once again, I am going to go ahead and declare that that is my base, 365 days. And we're looking at the federal taxes, and this one has days, 70 days. So that's going to be my A. That's also an amount out of the base. So we have A, we have B, and it's telling you what percent. So you know you're looking for your P. All right, so then we're going to go ahead and take our formula. And again, it's up to you. You can do the proportion or you can do the equation. Do the equation this time. A is equal to peanut butter. So I have 70 is equal to the percent times the base, 365. Since this is multiply, we do the opposite of multiply and we divide both sides by 365. Dividing out 365 from the right-hand side of the equation leaves you 1 times P, or just P. And then we're going to take 70 divided by 365 and place that in our calculator. We should get something similar to this, 1917. And what I need to do is remind you to always look at the answer, because I've already looked at it, but you need to. Round to 1 decimal place as needed. 1 decimal place means 1 digit or 1 number after the decimal. All right. Just remember though, this is a percent. So we need to translate this into a percent first, then round. So I need to take my decimal and move it 2 places to the right. My new decimal placement will be after the 9. So now I have 19.17%. We changed from decimal to a percent. And now we're going to pay attention to round to 1 decimal place. So that is in the 10th position. And we look to the right, and 7 is greater than or equal to 1. I'm sorry, 7 is greater than or equal to 5. So I will go ahead and add my 1 there. And when I do so, this is now giving me 19.2. And I write my percent symbol on there. And this is my P, the what percent that we were looking for. All right, so once again, go through the reading and identify what they gave you. If they're asking you for a percent, then you're looking for your amount and your base in the reading. A sofa regularly sells for $880. The sale price is $668.80. Find the percent decrease of the sale price from the regular price. So when they say regular price, you want to think of this as your original. Just going to abbreviate. That's your original price, $880. And this is the new price. And so when we're talking about percent decrease, we went over that in one of our reviews. We said that the percent decrease or even the percent increase is found the same way. So the percent decrease is found by taking the larger number minus the smaller number divided by the original number. And just remember that this is a percent. All right, so let's take our numbers. The original number, so in this case, the larger number minus the smaller number. So we have 880 minus the smaller number, $668.80, divided by the original number, which is 880. And then from there, once you work this out, you are going to get 2400ths as your answer, which we're looking for a percent. So you convert this into a percent of 24%. All right, so larger number minus a smaller number divided by the original number. So find the percent decrease of the sale price from the regular price. There was a 24% decrease. All right, so this concludes the lecture.